Hi there, welcome to the Business Edge podcast from the Central Arizona College Small Business Development Center. My name's Kevin, I'm the center director.
And I'm Cal, one of the business counselors.
And we're here this time to talk about from invisible to in demand, how to get customers flocking to you like crazy. So we're going to talk marketing here. And before we get into the fireworks, we got to set the stage. We got to talk about the nuts and bolts before we get to some of the real fun stuff.
But once you set that stage, when we get into the techniques, those fireworks will go off.
Lots of fun.
Oh,
Lots
yeah.
of fun here. So, when it comes to developing your overall marketing plan, whether that's the big plan or a lean plan, we'll get to that at the end. You really want to start with that first big question. What's the problem I'm solving, or what's the need I'm addressing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Without being able to answer that question well, first of all, you really don't have a business, let's face it.
That's true.
Right? You have to be doing something for someone to be able to then, to get them to hand over their hard-earned cash for whatever it is you're doing, whether it's a product or service. So the first thing you got to ask yourself is, what's the problem I'm solving? What's the need I'm addressing?
Right.
All right? What's the next question you'd ask, Cal?
How are you going to solve or fulfill that need? What's the manner in which you're going to do that?
Right. And it's important to go through this exercise. It's important to write it down.
Well, in the old days, everything was done in person, but nowadays we can do things online. So I had a consulting business at one point. Now you could actually do consulting online. And making that differentiation is huge, because how you market plays into that. So these
Absolutely.
base questions we're asking really does set the stage for what's going to come later, the
You bet.
fireworks.
Yeah, it really provides a foundation for your messaging, how you're going to reach people, that kind of thing. So the next question I think you need to ask is, who's my competition?
Oh, yeah.
And what makes me different? How do I differentiate myself from the competition?
So competition, we're talking about head-to-head as well as secondary.
So let's give an example of that. So if you're a plumber, your head-to-head competition would be other plumbers, right?
Right.
But maybe the secondary competition would be those things that allow folks to do things themselves, like liquid plumber.
Getting online, finding out how to fix it yourself.
Sure, you bet. So
That would be secondary.
Yeah, you got these head-to-heads, and then you've got secondary competition.
Yes.
So you want to identify those competitors. And then, most importantly, and this has to be a theme throughout, is what really truly differentiates you, what we call a
Unique selling proposition, USP. Absolutely. If you don't have something that differentiates you just like everybody else, you become a commodity.
Yep. It's going to be much easier for you to be successful in your business if you have a way to differentiate yourself from the competition. What makes you unique? What makes you better? Right?
Right. Then we need to talk about target audience. Who are we going to be targeting? How do we find these people?
And what do they care about?
And what do they care about?
You know,
Absolutely.
in classic marketing, right, you've got demographics.
Right.
The who, what, where do they reside, how much do they make, what's their education level, their gender, all of those kinds of straightforward demographic
Income
things.
level.
Yep, there you go.
All of that stuff, yes.
And then,
Psychographics. Whoa, that sounds crazy.
I like to say it this way, you know, demographics are good and solid, but psychographics are where it's at, man.
Well, Kevin, what are psychographics then?
Well, you know, these are the needs, the wants, the aspirations, the pain points that folks go through. You know, when you really distill it down, psychographics are the things that really get to why people would want to give you their hard-earned money.
Why are they interested in your product or service anyway? That's the psychographics part of it.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you've got the demo, you got the psychographics. Again, demographics are great, but psychographics are where it's at, man.
I agree. Now, we're moving through this stuff pretty fast, but these things are very critical to have them down. If you don't think
Absolutely.
about it, the second part, the fireworks, it's going to be hard to come up with really good fireworks.
That's right. And I'll interject this right now, we'll say it again, but at the Central Arizona College Small Business Development Center, we can help you work through these things as well.
Absolutely.
So, all right, so we know who the target audience is. Now we need to know how many of them there are. What's the size of that market? And are there enough of them for my product or service to actually make a profit?
Absolutely. So we need to start, is it local? So we've worked with some people, their market is local. They want to go to the local farmer's market, the local Saturday swap meet. That's their market.
Sure.
That's local. Then you've got, okay, regional, national, international. Is international your market? So you need to define that. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with saying, I am local. I am local. There's also nothing wrong with saying, I'm national or I'm international.
I'll add to that too. Sometimes when you're starting your business, it's great to come up with what we affectionately refer to as a beachhead strategy. How do we establish ourselves and get rolling? And local can be a great way to at least get started, even if you're going to be selling things on a regional or national basis too. So
absolutely, nothing wrong with that. Good.
So how many of these potential customers are out there, right?
Right.
You want to be able to understand what's the potential market, and then you want to make an informed guess, typically, of what's the percentage of that large number that we actually feel we can acquire, what's formally referred to as market penetration.
Absolutely.
So, how many of these folks do you think we can actually look to as prospects and then ultimately closing them as real customers?
And as we mentioned before, you need to find out who your competitors are, because your competitors are going to have some of that market share right now.
Sure.
Is your USP, your unique selling proposition, strong enough to pull them away? And
I'm glad you used the word market share. That really is penetration to a certain degree, right? How many of those folks can we actually acquire?
Right.
Very good.
Kevin, I'm looking at this and I'm going, I'm selling bracelets. Anybody with a wrist is my market. Okay.
Which is, nearly 70% of all people.
Can the SBDC, can the Small Business Development Center, help me with finding out who my market is?
Sure. Yeah, we have great tools that can help us to help you understand what your market is, who your market is. We can help you go through these processes of what gets them, what makes them interested in you, what may actually get them to turn over their hard-earned money.
Because a lot of people don't feel comfortable doing market research. We hear that. That's what big companies do. I'm just starting up. I don't want to do market research, but I do need this information.
Sure. We have great tools that, of course, because it's the SBDC, they are made at no cost to you. So we have great tools that can help.
Okay. So it is critical to find out what the size of the market is, really how much can you take of that market, because that's going to impact whether you're a viable business or not.
Right, whether you can make a living off of this.
That's right.
Right?
Yep. Okay, so we've got that market size. I'm thinking about demand. Is there really a demand there for that?
Right.
So we've got that very beginning. We talked about, okay, what need are you addressing? What problem are you solving? Is that problem enough that people are going to give you money?
Certainly, and at a certain price point. We'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, it's about creating demand if that market doesn't exist, or increasing that demand if that market is already existing.
Right.
So give us an example of where demand has been created out of thin air.
Okay. Well, for example, if when I was a kid on Saturday morning they'd have cartoons, every commercial was a sugared cereal.
So healthy. So good for you.
Yes, my mom did not like that. My mom's idea of a breakfast was something hot that she cooked on the stove and presented in front of you, not a sugared cereal.
That you would eat in front of the television.
Even worse, yes, even worse.
Yeah.
And So there's a demand there. Is there a need for it? Did I need a sugared cereal? The absolute answer is no, I did not need that. My mom was willing to cook me a hot breakfast.
Yeah.
But boy, after watching those commercials, I'll tell you, I sure needed that. It was no longer a want. I needed that.
Oh, yeah. For me, it was Sugar Pops. I love Sugar Pops. Those were crazy. Crazy good.
I like Tony the Tiger.
Oh, yeah.
Frosted Flakes.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what I needed.
They're great. Those
No,
are
they're
awesome.
great. That's
You know,
what Tony the Tiger used to say.
And just to interject, that's an example of a tagline, right?
Yes.
They're great.
Yes.
As good as it gets.
So marketing does taglines too.
Oh yeah, it's about developing messaging that includes things like taglines. Absolutely. Another example of something that we really didn't know we needed until we had it, and now we can't do without it, is the ability to capture video on this thing that goes into our pocket we call a cell phone. You know, okay, it was one thing to have a phone in our pocket. We didn't really know we needed to have video or stills, that kind of thing, until now that we have it. There isn't a day goes by probably that I don't use some form of either video or stills from my cell phone. So
Well, being a photographer, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah, and that's the main reason I buy a phone now for it, actually.
You know, I worked with somebody who was one of the top, in fact, she was invited to some conference on one of the games on her phone. She played games on there. Before, she used to read. Now when she's sitting in the airport, she plays games. So yes, there's something else.
Yeah, didn't know you needed it until it was there, and now you can't live without it, right?
She can't live without it,
It's crazy.
absolutely.
Crazy, kind of like back then, Sugar Pops.
Yes.
So you also want to be able to, as part of this creating or increasing demand, you want to be able to have and make sure that you have a great unique selling proposition, that USP thing that differentiates you from the competition.
Sure. So there were lots of people that made pizzas. But back in the day, Domino's said, hey, we got to differentiate ourselves. We need people to come to us. We're going to steal your market share. How are we going to do that? We're going to deliver the pizza, and it's free if it's not there in 30 minutes. Whole market share that's buying pizzas from
huge.
somebody else moved over to Domino's.
It was huge. You know, that being able to get the pizza in 30 minutes when I was at college, that was a game changer.
Absolutely.
Absolute game changer.
So that USP that's going to tie into our messaging and our taglines. We mentioned taglines before.
Yep.
All marketing stuff that needs to happen. Once you define all that stuff, now you can start crafting that tagline, your message to that market that you're going after.
Absolutely. You know, the business school number one example of taglines used to be Nike, right? What's
Right.
Nike's tagline?
Just do it.
Just do it, right? That was for decades, that was likely the go-to example that you'd learn in Marketing 101. I got to say, even though I don't drink this stuff, I think the greatest tagline ever developed is the one for Red Bull. You know Red Bull?
I don't.
See, I would never drink this stuff, to be honest. Sorry for those of you who do. But, you know, Red Bull's an energy drink,
Right.
I think it's the greatest tagline ever made. Red Bull gives you wings.
Oh,
And all of
wonderful.
their marketing, if you've ever seen their commercials, it's, you know, people flying away, because it lifts you up.
Gives you the energy, yeah.
You know, again, I don't like the stuff, but Red Bull gives you wings is as good a tagline as I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
So as part of all this, too, you've got to create your logo. You've got to set up the color scheme that you'll use. Fonts. Yeah, all of these kinds of things. These things that as a whole, we used to refer to as brand guides. But, you know, developing that logo that actually makes sense, that actually helps to deliver your message, and the colors that become recognizable. There's so many examples. When you think of Walmart, there's a certain color palette that you
Right.
think of, right?
Well, even their logo is unique.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can see it in my mind's eye right now. Everyone can see right now, if you close your eyes, you know what the logo for Apple looks like, right?
Right.
And so you should develop a logo that actually helps to deliver your messaging.
I'm not sure that Walmart's logo helps to deliver their message, but Apple's absolutely does.
Oh, yeah, no question.
Absolutely.
so-
Does a logo need to have a picture in it, or could a logo be just words?
It certainly can be. It can be with anything you want.
And you mentioned color and font earlier, talking about your guide, your brand guide.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've got a unique font and maybe even a unique font and color scheme,
Sure.
that's enough to be your logo.
Absolutely. And to think that through, you also need to test that as well, by the way. Whenever you develop a logo, you need to make sure that that works at a large scale, of course, but also if you're going to drop that down on your business card, for instance, or your letterhead, does the logo still deliver, or is your logo so detailed that you can't really get anything out of it when it's at a small scale?
Right.
So you do need to test these things. So important to go through all that stuff.
So we're talking about fulfilling demand, creating demand, increasing demand, but we need to talk about pricing, because I can create demand with my pricing.
How do you mean?
Well, right now you're driving a truck. It's brand new. You don't need a Cadillac. But if I've got a Cadillac back here and I price it at $1, all of a sudden there's been no demand, but you're going to buy that Cadillac.
It's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You may not keep it, but you'll buy it from me.
Sure enough. Well, I would also say that your pricing is the initial message to the market,
Okay?
right? For instance, are you priced as the bargain basement, opportunity you're offering? Are you mid-market? Are you priced, at the high end of any market? That does send a signal to the market instantaneously with your price point.
It does. So, you've got a Rolex, and you can get a $10,000 Rolex. But for $499, you can get a quartz watch that never needs to be wound up. That's 1,000 times more accurate than that $10,000 Rolex. Why would anybody buy a $10,000 Rolex?
Through the prestige of it.
Absolutely.
Right? And well, it's also got some gold in it typically, but yes, it's more about that
I
prestige
can
style.
afford to wear
Right.
this watch.
Yes, look at me,
Yes.
right? Those kinds of things. So, but pricing is awfully important, especially as you begin to develop your prices. First of all, you have to make sure that you're thinking about your hard costs. Am I covering my costs with that price point? And then on top of covering my costs, how much more do I need in quote unquote profit to be able to grow the business and pay myself, pay my employees, and put a little something away maybe for new technology, new equipment, all of those kinds of things.
So pricing is very important. I'm going to add this because it's something I truly believe. If they come for price, they will leave for price. Okay? So if I think I'm going to create demand or capture market share by dropping my price down, as soon as my competitor goes at 5 cents below me, they all leave and go to my competitor. So it's competing on price. It's a hard thing to do, not necessarily a good long-term strategy.
No. In fact, in the least frequent of situations, do you want to compete on price?
I don't.
Yeah, no, you just don't want to compete on price ultimately, really.
So marketing
It's a race to the bottom.
needs to look at price, but they also need to look at the marketing messages they're sending out
Yeah.
to the demographics and psychographics that we're working with, and say, okay,
Sure.
where's that going to be and how do we do it? If you cannot come up with a good USP, maybe you do have to compete on price.
Sure. Yeah, and then you are a commodity.
And
then
then you're a
it's-
commodity.
And that's not a happy place to be necessarily, right?
That's right.
Okay, so those were all of the foundational work we needed to do.
That's the stage.
Yes, and now we're going to get to the fireworks here.
Okay.
Um,
I'm going to put these up on the screen, so they're not going to be able to look at our beautiful faces.
Okay,
But this
well, that's too
this
bad.
is super important. You're going to want to stop this, write this stuff down, come back and listen to it again. We're going to give you things that you absolutely need. It's going to change your life.
Absolutely. So these are marketing techniques that you use to drive demand. Let's just say it that way. So I'm going to let you take the first one because this is one of your favorites.
Well, if you want people flocking to you like crazy, you got to start using this. And I use this a lot. Fear and loss aversion. People are more motivated to avoid pain or loss than to gain something. So let me give you some examples. Don't let your competition steal your customers. Act now.
Act now.
Act now. Oh, yeah, powerful. Stock limited. Get yours before it's gone forever.
Yep, that's a tremendously powerful way to drive demand. Here's a second one. Pleasure and desire, what's referred to as aspirational marketing.
Oh, yes.
So this is where you tap into people's dreams, desires, ideal lifestyles to make your offer absolutely irresistible. An example would be indulge in the luxury you deserve, or imagine waking up every morning feeling energized and stress-free. So those are examples of aspirational marketing.
Oh, yeah, I deserve it. I deserve it.
Calgon, take me away.
Okay, let's go to number 3, social proof. People trust what others approve of and recommend. This is why testimonials, reviews, and influencer marketing work. So let me give you some examples. Over 10,000 happy customers can't be wrong. Or, as seen on major publication or celebrity endorsements, people use that all the time. I actually talked to one person, I said, well, wait a minute. You've got as seen on USA Today. Were you in USA Today? He goes, no, but I put an ad in there, so if they saw it in USA Today, as seen in. I'm like, well, that's cheating, but that's what he did.
Well, this brings us to, you know me, I love my one-liners, my rules of thumb.
Yes.
One of my favorites is, marketing is not for the timid nor the faint of heart.
Boy, that's true.
And
Okay.
an addendum to that is, if you aren't talking about yourself, nobody else will. Trust me on that one. All right. So let's go to this fourth idea here, scarcity and urgency. This is time is of the essence technique. So this is where people have to take action when they feel they might miss out, that FOMO thing, the fear of missing out. Examples are offer ends at midnight, act now, or only 3 spots left, reserve yours today. So
Yes.
these are time is of the essence techniques to drive demand.
And we see that online all the time. You see the little countdown clickers. Boy, it's going to be gone in one day if you don't get it now. This is your chance. Absolutely powerful stuff.
FOMO is a big thing.
Let's go to number 5 here, authority and expertise. Position yourself as an expert that builds trust and makes people more likely to buy from you. So some examples, backed by science, trusted by doctors.
2 out of 3 dentists recommend.
Oh, yes, yeah. 20 plus years of experience helping businesses like yours grow.
That's good stuff. The next one we'd like to introduce you to is reciprocity. This is giving something of value first, and people feel obligated to give back. You used an example earlier when we were talking about this of the Hare Krishnas in the airports where, would you like to buy a pencil, or here's a flower? And then you feel like, oh my God, I gotta give them some money. They're asking me for it. Other examples are, download this free guide, no strings attached, but we'd like to have your email.
That's right.
Try it for 7 days, risk-free. Or one of my favorites was from a Daffy Duck cartoon way back when. We'll go back to your cartoons on Saturday. When he said, Adam call, absolutely free for $5.
Yes.
Love that
We see
stuff.
that all the time. Now, you don't understand this, but people say, you can get my book for free, just pay for shipping. Shipping covers everything plus some profit in there.
Yep.
It's just another way to sell it. They just couch
Absolutely.
it differently.
Yep.
All right, this one here is kind of interesting. Identity and belonging, or we call it tribal marketing. People want to belong to a group or a movement that reflects their identity. Can you think of one?
The best example is by far Apple.
Apple.
The Apple cult, as I
Oh,
refer to it.
yes.
Sorry for those of you who are Apple folks, but yes, they have built a community that that absolutely the best example of tribal marketing.
So Guy Kawasaki, he was their evangelist. He started that whole thing. Boy, when you open up your laptop at Starbucks, which is another one, you want it to say Apple on there. Mine doesn't. Mine says HP, but Apple's the way to go.
Sure.
So really, examples, join the elite group of entrepreneurs who refuse to settle.
Right.
This product is for high achievers who demand the best. Yes, if you can create that cult following, if you can create a community, you got them.
The next technique is the contrast principle. This is where you make your offer look like the obvious choice by comparing it to less attractive options. So, for instance, an example might be, most fitness programs cost $200 a month. Ours is just $49 a month. Or regular price is $999. Today, only $299. This reminds me of something I'm hearing on the radio right now, too. This is for an HR company. And the guy says, only $29 a month. That's pretty slick.
Yes.
Anyway.
All right, let's go to the next one. I call this storytelling and emotional connection. I do like this. I really like this when I'm doing sales because people remember stories. So people buy based on emotion, and then they justify with logic. It's true.
Sure is.
Tell stories that make them feel something. Once you get that emotion going, then you can play to that emotion. It's a great marketing technique. It's a great sales technique.
You bet.
So an example, meet Sarah. She struggled for years until she found our solution, okay? Or this isn't just a watch, it's a symbol of success.
Well, there's getting at your watch thing there.
Yeah.
This is by far one of the most powerful ways of creating demand or increasing demand. I will also say, though, that as part of, especially if you're starting up, make sure to have the founder's journey story there. What was your why? Why did you start the business? There can be some emotional pull created from that. Certainly storytelling.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mystery and curiosity, what's affectionately referred to as open loops. This is where you create intrigue to keep people engaged and wanting more. Examples, for instance, would be, what's the number one mistake most business owners make? Hint, it's costing you money. Or, we discovered a shocking secret about weight loss. Find out what it is. So it's creating that curiosity that engages the customer to want to find out more.
Sure. What's the number one mistake? I better find that out. It might be costing me money.
Sure enough.
Yeah, that's absolutely great. Let's go on to the next one. Guarantees and risk reversal. Just remove the risk of buying so customers feel safe. We see it all the time. 100% money back guarantee. If you don't love it, you don't pay. Or try it for 30 days, no commitment. Absolutely. And truly that does help. When people go, well, I'll try it out. If I don't like it, I'll just get my money back. No big deal.
Yeah, think about how a lot of these new bed manufacturers have used this. Try our bed for 99 days, no penalty. Send it back if you don't like it. It was a great technique for a lot of new bed companies to start launching their products.
Absolutely.
All right, simplicity and clarity. Make the decision easy and obvious. People avoid complex choices. You want to make things easy for people to choose. So examples of this is one simple step to getting started, or no hidden fees, no confusing terms, just results. I will say that in my photography business, especially on the wedding side, we created 3 packages. Let's make it simple. Now, yes, we could have custom stuff, and oftentimes we did, quite frankly, but we made it simple for them to look at these 3 various levels. There's another great example, of course, of the single, double, and triple burger. Makes things easy. Look at the menuing at In-N-Out. Oh my goodness, that's one of the simplest menus you'll ever see, and I think In-N-Out is successful.
What about surprise and novelty? People love new, exclusive, and unexpected things. Some examples could be introducing a breakthrough product never before seen.
Ooh, I gotta have that.
Yes. Or what about we're revealing a special offer for our VIP customers only? Oh, I want to be a part of that.
Very powerful, very powerful. The next technique we'd like to discuss is the because effect or justification. This is people are more likely to comply when given a reason why. For instance, sign up today because spots are filling fast. This method works because it's backed by research and real-world results. All right. So those are the major techniques that you can use to help drive or create demand. And as usual, of course, we at the CAC Small Business Development Center we can help and work with you on these things to help develop your messaging and your plan. Which brings us to this concept of a lean marketing plan. This is 1 or 2 pages, very simple, high level look at what your messaging is, your strategies, your goals, even including just a brief mention of your budget. But the lean marketing plan, we can help you develop that in a very short amount of time, giving you traction here to get you rolling quick.
Yeah, I think one of the things I really like about that lean marketing plan is once you've got that down, and it really goes to that setting the stage stuff we were talking about. Once you've got that, then these techniques start to flow very quickly.
Sure.
And you can say, oh, this would work, that would work. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we can help you develop your lean marketing plan very quickly at the CAC SBDC. And as usual, of course, all of our services are at no cost. That's the way we work. That's the way we roll. So that's our discussion on how to drive demand, how to really begin to build your marketing plan.
How to get those customers to flock to you like crazy.
Yeah, this from invisible to in demand kind of idea.
Absolutely.
So we'd like to thank you for joining us for this podcast. Please check out other podcasts at our Facebook page, at our YouTube channel, and most importantly at our website, which you see on the screen right now. That website is centralaz.edu/SBDC. You can go there and you'll see a request counseling button all over the place. Click on that button and we'll be in touch to help you realize your dream. So thanks for joining us. My name is Kevin.
And I'm Cal.
And this has been the Business Edge podcast from Central Arizona College Small Business Development Center.
And here's to your ultimate success.